Can you make $1 million a year with image ads on Facebook? In my experience, yes, it's possible. Here is data from a side project of ours last year that Alfred and I haven't been spending a lot of time on. And it was driven 100% by image ads. And just for context, this is still active. We will take a look at, let's say, the last 14 days, and we can see we've done about 31K in sales, with days fluctuating between 3,400, 3K yesterday, and $1,000 on the low end. And then there's Original Grain, a brand that I've been keeping tabs on, who I know has been doubling every year for the last 3 years or so, while staying profitable and doing what I estimate to be $50 million a year at this point. And you can see their media mix over here, where image ads represent 93% of their creative. And as we scroll down, we can see that is the case. Lots of images. And image ads are a quiet kind of ad that works better than most people expect, but the effectiveness doesn't come from the format. Instead, it comes from what's underneath the image and the format. Kind of like with push-ups and pull-ups. When done casually, they don't do much, but when done with control, with strength, with intention, they become brutally effective. I'm actually following Kyle over here, his training philosophies, as I've gotten more back into strength training after taking a bit of a hiatus, deprioritizing strength training in favor of endurance over the last 2 years. And the subtle nuance when it comes to, let's say, push-ups and pull-ups is that the power doesn't necessarily come from the arms. It comes from the core. And creative works the same way. An image only works if it's built from a strong foundation, which I consider a deep understanding of the person you're speaking to. Before we create ads and creative, we put very strong intention together with AI into understanding the personas we're targeting. We like to answer questions like, what feeling is this person chasing? We answer questions like, what kind of brand do they want to belong to? What does this product allow them to express without having to say it out loud? And questions like, where have they felt unseen before? These are what I would consider to be the muscles that are under the movement. When the answers are clear, the creative doesn't have to do much, and it has a much better chance of landing and converting because it's built with care at the foundation. It's built with strength, and it's simple on the surface, but stable at the core. Here's an example that we can walk through of how I use AI to clarify these personas so we can hang them up in our digital offices to remember who it is that we're serving and how we should speak with them to ensure that it's compelling. And for the sake of demonstration and example, I have added here an example use case of doing it for an extremely commoditized product with the intention of building personas so that we can communicate with them and allow for them to come to their own conclusion that what you're selling and showing them isn't a commodity, which can allow them to come to their own conclusions to convert with you. Kicking it off, a very simple process here of pasting in the image and using this prompt here. Based on what you see, share 20 personas of who you think are high converting personas for this product. Describe them in detail as if an autobiography was written about their life last week. Let's see what it came up with. We got Olivia, who's 34, the cozy homebody. Wednesday night, I curled up on the couch with my tabby, Luna, peppermint tea in hand. After finishing my new cozy mystery novel, I scrolled Etsy for cat-themed mugs and somehow ended up ordering another cat mom shirt. Honestly, it feels like part of my identity now. The wheels that may be turning in your head are, what if AI isn't giving us accurate personas? And in my opinion and my experience, it actually doesn't matter. The process here that is helpful is using AI as a thinking partner to stumble across ideas and ways of communicating with your addressable market without relying on just your own ideas and your own biases and assumptions. Secondly, you don't have to rely 100% on AI for these personas if at this very starting point, instead of just the image, you include some reviews from your actual store that consumers have left for you. And you can use that in your prompt to ask AI and help you with filling out the picture on the narrative behind the persona who actually is shopping with you. Let's take a look at another example. We got Janelle, 26, first-time cat owner. It's only been 3 months since I adopted Mochi, but I already can't remember life before him. I wore my new cat mom shirt to the farmer's market on Sunday and got stopped twice by fellow cat lovers. Instant connection. And this is just a starting point. So we got 20 in total, and you can ask AI for as many as you want. And the cool thing about this is that with Meta's latest AI updates that they made an announcement about at the end of March, with the update like Andromeda, which they call the personal concierge, it's not a make or break if Janelle, this persona over here, or Brenda or Leia represent only, let's say, 3% each of our total addressable market. Because with Andromeda, the whole thing with it is that it helps us with delivering personalized experiences to the right person at the right time and enables us to capture more of the addressable market and cohorts of it that we might have previously missed because we didn't have the generative AI capabilities to make the creative to support these personas or the delivery mechanisms that are now enabled with Meta. The follow-up prompt to make it a little bit easier to start with was, of these 20 personas, decide on the 3 that are the easiest to convert if I can only communicate with them in static images with no text. Explain your reasons. And the intention here isn't to necessarily only run static image ads with no copy on them. The intention I actually have here is that I want the image ideas and concepts to be so good that standalone, they would work well. And then we add copy on top by doing follow-up prompting. The pics that ChatGPT gave us in this case was Olivia, 34, the cozy homebody, Mia, 31, therapist with burnout, and Leia, 42, the social media cat influencer. And let's take a look at some of the rationales. So we have the reasons why she's easy to convert visually. Visual cues like a soft pink tea, warm blankets, a cat curled up in a sunbeam, tea, and a book are instantly relatable and emotionally charged for this persona. She's highly responsive to mood and aesthetic. A photo that evokes cozy cat mom vibes will resonate immediately without needing words. Her emotional state is tied to comfort, and your product naturally fits into that story with just visuals. As a bit of a side note and a personal anecdote, when my son was a little over a year old and my wife and I were at the grocery store walking around, she saw this box that says, "My baby makes my heart happy." And she started crying. She was so emotionally touched by the words and the visual that she was compelled emotionally to have a reaction to it, and also piqued her curiosity to get a box of Cheerios, even though logically she knows there's no difference about those Cheerios when we compare them to just normal Cheerios. And I bring that up because it can be easy to overlook what is compelling to people and the ideas that ChatGPT is giving us if we are not these personas ourselves. As an example, I did not have the same reaction that my wife had when I saw this box, but for her, it was extremely compelling. And I mention this because the speed at which AI is able to ideate together with us, we can often conflate that with the effectiveness of the ideas because of the perceived effort required to generate them. Because it's a bit incomprehensible how there's this thinking partner who can respond to you in a matter of seconds, who's been trained on the entire history of the internet and has access to the internet. And so we can overlook the value of these ideas because of our own biases, which to me is one of the benefits of using AI, is that it gives me a lot of ideas, even for personas that I could never think about appealing to on my own, let alone the ideas and concepts that it can generate. Moving on, it ends the response with, "Would you like help brainstorming static image setups that would hook each of these personas instantly?" And the response here is, yes, give me 5 for each persona. I'd like for you to prioritize appealing to their sense of identity the way consumer behavior experts like Rory Sutherland and William Leach would. The ideas, when turned into imagery, should be compelling without the need for added copy. And I just mentioned that for redundancy, with the intention of reinforcing that we want these images to convert well on their own, even without copy, so that if we were to add copy on top, which we can ideate with AI, it can perform like rocket fuel. And then it gave a bunch of ideas, not all of them great, but some of them decent. We have one here for Olivia, the 34-year-old cozy homebody, that was cat as weighted blanket, a bird's eye view of a woman napping on the couch in the tea, her cat stretched across her chest, one hand gently resting on the cat. The signal that it's going for here is emotional safety and comfort in stillness, which if we go back to a short description of the persona, we can see here it had mentioned her emotional state is tied to comfort, and she's highly responsive to mood and aesthetic. Moving on, as a next step, the prompt was, for each concept, generate 3 image prompts that I can give to a model to generate images for me. The prompt should successfully generate the concept, even if the model does not have prior context with our chat history and is only given a reference image. The reason why I mentioned this is because when I ask large language models for image prompt ideas, sometimes they can get into the habit of assuming that the model has prior context to information that's relevant to generate the image, even though it doesn't. Because oftentimes I will use one model for generating the prompts and then another model for doing the actual image or video generations. Here's what it came up with for Olivia on that second concept with the cat as a weighted blanket. And it said, top-down view of a woman lying on a couch wearing a Cat Mom t-shirt, a large cat stretched out across her chest, one hand resting on the cat, natural, cozy indoor lighting. And for reference, this was the original image that we gave it. And when we take a look at what it ended up producing, it actually looks meaningfully different compared to the flat lay. Here's the flat lay, and here is the idea executed, where there is a lot more emotion, or rather a different emotion that's being elicited here. And again, I want to stress that this example is being done with the most commoditized product potentially ever on the internet. If you were to do this with a product that isn't as commoditized, you can just imagine what can be done and what can be possible. Moving on, I want to walk you through the remainder of the prompts that were used to fill out the personas a little bit more so that we can understand them and understand who it is that we're targeting and speaking to, so we can be intentional with our messaging, both when it comes to visual messaging and textual messaging or text-based messaging. Prompt was recap descriptions of each of these personas, writing a detailed description, autobiography style of her life in the past week. So it ended up doing that for the top 3 personas. And we can see the one over here with Olivia is descriptive of what she might have gone through in the last 7 days of her life, and the context relevant to her cat, which is related to the product. Following that up, we have include a breakdown of each persona as if we had profiles of them hanging on our walls in our office, so that new and existing staff always remember who we're serving. And this idea for me for using this prompt has come from an experience where one of my very early copywriting clients that I worked with about a decade ago took a visit to a large email marketing software office. And that software is Aweber or Aweber, not quite sure how they pronounce it. And he had mentioned that when he went to their office, they had actual pictures of their personas that they were targeting and serving hanging around the walls of their office so that they could remember who it is they are speaking to when it comes to their marketing, but also when it comes to their customer support. Given that they're a software company, lifetime value and staying on the software is a big part of the game and how gross profits grow over time. Here's what it came up with. Snapshot summary, 34 years old, small town or cozy suburb, works remotely or part-time, values simple pleasures. Cat is not just a pet, it's a soulmate. Personality and voice, gentle, introspective, nurturing, finds deep joy in the little rituals of everyday life, warmly introverted, avoids chaos. Emotional drivers, seeks comfort, belonging, emotional security, wants her home and clothing to feel like a hug, finds meaning in stillness and companionship. Her lifestyle anchors, evening tea and books, slow weekend mornings. Slow living is actually a very trending passion right now. Window watching with her cat, soft pajamas, candles, cozy blankets. Visual cues, golden sunlight on wood floors, soft fuzzy socks, plush couches, neutral tone throws, a sleeping cat curled up at her side. So you can start to see how this information can inform you and also inform generative AI models on making static images that speak to them at deeper levels than just simple offer-based ads that we typically default to when we think about having to create ads for our businesses. And what I mean by that for relative comparison is stuff like this, where in Canva, If you take a look at their Facebook ads templates, it's lacking when it comes to out of the box, touching on the triggers that are most relevant to personas and what they actually resonate with. Tactically, what you can do is you can turn these prompts into meaningful personas that you can document and refer to over time, and also use them when you're working with AI to come up with further ideas. Here's an example of where I'm taking the personas that a prior chat, the one that we were just looking at, has given me, and I upload it as a PDF so that I can further prompt it, in this case, for copy ideas to layer on top of the image creatives. And you can continue to make these personas and reference materials even more robust over time by further prompting for information that you'll feel is valuable for models to have as context. Example here, let's include in each profile a section of a comprehensive list of examples of content that compels her and why it compels her, so that we can make more content for this consumer and this persona that doesn't stand out like an advertisement that they want to skip, but rather content that they want to engage with. Another example, let's include a section on examples of vocabulary and language that compels her. Again, with explanations for context on why each compel her. And it gives nice summaries of examples of words and phrases that resonate with her for each of the personas contextually. And we can see here for comparison with Olivia, vocabulary that she may like: soft, cozy up, curl up with slow mornings. And we can contrast that with Leia, own it, perfectly imperfect, made for each other, life's better with a sidekick. And having these personas available to you and the models that you work with is way easier to make high converting static imagery for when you compare it to not having any target at all that's clearly documented and articulated for reference.